Wow, look at that stock reaction, Karen. It was good enough and then some.
Yeah, it was, and on so many fronts, actually, just about every single front. So the advertising strength, that was obviously a positive, and hopefully will be a read-through for Meta as well. But YouTube, also a positive, so that's good. And Cloud was good. So there's a lot to like here. The valuation isn't too demanding, guys. Thinking of the other day. We couldn't think of it. Yeah. The Ruth Porat thing, it's kind of, I don't know what quite to make of it. Remember when she got there, she was very much celebrated, and she turned out to be great. It really was, we need a grown-up in the room, and we need someone who's not just going to spend. They did continue to spend for quite a while, but I think they're going to spend on AI, but also they may be able to reel it in on AI if they could become more efficient, which they should be able to. So there's a lot to like here, but I always want to wait till the call. Sometimes they throw something out at you, but I'm pleasantly surprised.
The comments so far really exhibit, just a carefulness when it comes to spending, prioritizing growth, but durably re-engineering the cost space. I mean, these are new words from big tech, but these are the kinds of words that investors want to hear right now.
They are, although I think in Google's case, they want to hear that the core business is alive and well, and the competitive threats from generative AI are not things that are hurting their core search business, and their core search business is crushing it. And if you look at then, Cloud's up 28%, YouTube up 4% after contracting the last couple quarters. Those other parts of the business that have been important parts of the story, I think, are what bring you along. And Google, the stock, is the one of the mega cap tech stocks that really it's hard to say it's underperformed, but if you look at Microsoft and Apple, which basically got back and went through those highs of 2 years ago, Google's still, around 145 is the target to make a fresh new high. So relative underperformance, part of the reason Karen talked about the valuation, gives investors the ability to follow through on this because the valuation is really, of all of them, makes the most sense.
It was interesting. Debo just said that they pushed out the construction of a data center. And you would think that, again, I think if you think about the last 7 months, you think about the introduction of ChatGPT-4, and really, for all intents and purposes, it felt like Google was left flat-footed, right? And so it's come around a little bit. So maybe some of that underperformance relative to Microsoft has kind of come out right now with where the stock is. I'm with Karen. I want to hear more on the call. I want to hear what they think, their ability to kind of commercialize some of the products that they are working on. This Gemini is going to be really important to them. And again, I said it last night, I don't think we're going to see really earnings growth from this sort of stuff. I don't think we're going to see it until the back half of next year. So now, make no mistake about it, there is still pressure on that search business. I mean, that's what all of these business models are kind of going for, too. So, the better it looks is the more incentive a lot of their competitors have, in my opinion. So, I'm not chasing this here. I know you're probably long and you came in and that sort of thing. I would be surprised if you would be adding to it at this point. I'm just saying that to the crowd right here before we have a better sense of just kind of what the outlook looks like for the back half of the year. And I'm not sure they're going to give specific guidance. They don't do that anymore. But.
And I'm glad you mentioned the competition. Obviously, we're going to get to Microsoft in just a moment. But, for some time, we've been talking about AI, Microsoft versus Alphabet, how flat-footed Alphabet has been, how behind it may be. We still have to hear about when they're going to actually launch the search generative experience, which is, I guess, maybe the equivalent sort of the Copilot that Microsoft talked about at $30 a month, guys. So there's still a lot of details that we want to hear about in terms of their growth in the future. But for right now, their business is just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and I don't think they're as behind as people think. And at 20 times next year's numbers with probably close to 22% EPS growth, I think you want to be in the stock on the virtue just on valuation alone and the fact that they're probably not that significantly behind Microsoft. And oh, by the way, operating margins are now approaching 30%. Good for them. This is a really good quarter. I know what Dan's saying, up $9. Do you want to chase, especially potentially with a call? Valuation is compelling still. This is something that Karen's talked about for a while. And that 148-ish prior all-time high from November of 2021, I think on a benign tape, that's definitely in the crosshairs.